Hi, it's Joy Foster, founder of TechPixies and the host of the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And today we are bringing you someone from behind the scenes at TechPixies. There is no doubt in my mind that I would not be able to do what we do at TechPixies without this amazing individual. And she was and is a very important member of the team. And she was last year the team member of the year, and this year was a highly commended. So welcome, Kathryn Conway, to the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And
Aww.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, Joy. It's lovely to be here, and so nice to be this side of the camera. How unusual.
Well, do you think you could have been this side of the camera 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago when you first came into the TechPixie world?
Definitely not. I had a big fear of public speaking. I think probably most women feel the same, really, about being on camera, putting yourself out there in general. And yeah, I didn't have the confidence. Definitely didn't have the confidence that I do now to be able to speak publicly and form coherent sentences on camera, which I think is, key.
Well, it does help for the listener, for sure. Well, you are a huge part of TechPixies. You came into TechPixies as a student, actually, through our what was at the time called Social Media Magic and has now been turned into our Social Media Management Certification Program. And now you actually run all of the funnels that we build at TechPixies, so all the programs that we run for free, all of the communication, internal and external, that we do. So all the copy on our social media, all the copy in the emails, all the copy on the show notes. That is all you. And we spend a lot of time working together and have worked very closely for a long time. If we can rewind way back to when you first found TechPixies, what life was like, what you were hoping to achieve and accomplish, that would be great.
Yeah, so I found TechPixies in 2018, 2019, when I call those my difficult years, I suppose. A lot had gone on in my life and it was pretty challenging all round. I think most people in TechPixies have a story to tell, and I think that's really what draws us together as a community, is that familial common bond that we have together around things that have happened in our life. And I think the community draws a lot of strength from those shared stories. My story at the time was that I was made redundant in 2018. My dad died the same year. And then in 2019, I went through a separation and I'm currently finalising the processes of the divorce. So all of those things combined together really made for a really tricky situation personally. And then obviously being made redundant on a professional level, you lose that kind of sense of identity of who you are. I was definitely someone who tied a lot of worth to the job that I was doing at the time. And I actually loved the job that I was doing. And I was really sad to be made redundant from it. But it gave me a new opportunity to reset and look at what I wanted to achieve. And I really needed to upskill. And I think my social media skills, for anyone who knew me back in 2018, they will tell you that I was pretty hopeless at social media. In fact, I was doing it for other people, but not very well. I didn't understand the mechanics of it other than writing some copy, and really understood how to engage an audience properly and really what you needed to be doing to progress a really good account and make it solid and worth reading and worth following. Not just on a professional level, but also on a personal level too. So I found TechPixies through the mighty Facebook ads. It popped out. It was, I think at the time it was you, a personal post from you. And I spoke to Juliet on the phone, who was in support at the time. And that conversation really showed me exactly what TechPixies was like, that kind of caring sense of community that you in particular bring. And I think everyone who joins TechPixies will say this. The primary reason I joined TechPixies was to upskill. The second reason I joined TechPixies was because of you. And just really the kind of vibrant personality and joyful presence that you bring to everything that you do. Simple as that. It was all about you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that very much. And I think I have heard that before. And I think that the skill set is always the number one. I think what they find out is, and I think as you found out, it is that it's not just about the skill set, that we need to make mental shifts along the way in order to even utilize that amazing skill set. And so that's definitely a passion of mine. And that's why I think people, when they come into the community, they stay because they like the community aspect of it, but also they like to be inspired and guided, especially on the mindset shifts that need to be made. And you and I have both been making those shifts for ourselves and the company over the last few years. We've gone through so much together. So I'm grateful that you're here to share your story. So you did the program, and what did you discover about yourself, and what were you hoping to do with the skills that you picked up?
I think the first thing to understand is, as you rightly say, it was all in the mental shifts for me. I think the skills are good to have on one level, but I took away so many what I call joyisms from my time with you. I was a classic perfectionist. Everything I did had to be perfect. And I really had to let that go. And done not perfect for me was such a mental shift to make. It was being able to just accept the fact that sometimes things won't be perfect, either in life or in work. And it's better just to get it out there, get it done, and just show that you can achieve and do something just by doing it, essentially, and not worrying about really necessarily if it's perfect or not. And that was a big mental shift for me. I think also another joyism that I really love is keep your eyes in your own boat. I think we all compare and contrast or compare and despair, actually, and look at other people's social media accounts or what other people are doing. I certainly do that professionally. I think as a copywriter or a writer in general, your words that you use are so emotive, and they're ultimately an expression of either you if you're writing personally, or if you're a copywriter, you're trying to emote the person that you're writing for. You're trying to bring their voice to the equation and really make sure that they are singing their message the best possible way. And sometimes you look around at what other copywriters are doing, and you're thinking, and you're always asking, is my work good enough? And it's really difficult not to compare and then despair. But I think everyone has their own lane. Everyone brings their own strengths to the table. And I think ultimately the group of copywriters, certainly within TechPixies, there are a few of us. And I think it's a really lovely, supportive community, actually. I'm a big champion of Ella Hoyas and Minnie McBride in particular. I just think they're such lovely, lovely people, and doing such good work as well with their podcast. So I think it's nice just to be able to look at other people's work and accept that you've got improvements to make sometimes. It's good to recognise that. But also just to be able to champion other people and recognise what they're doing too, and give them a good shout out.
Well, if I remember correctly, you were part of cohort 14, which I think was our very first online cohort. Is that's right? I think up until then we've been doing in-person cohorts, and you and Lisa Mellis, who's our designer, you both happened to be on the first online cohort that we ran.
Yeah, we were cohort 15 actually, and 15. It's so lovely that Lisa and I are both on the inside of TechPixies. And I just remember Lisa in our cohort just being such a lovely, vibrant human. She was just so full of joy, and the fact that I get to work with her on a daily basis and see her skills and have a good laugh and a good chat. I think behind the scenes, there's always so much that we're doing. It's quite fast paced. There's lots going on, but I think the levity and the joy that Lisa brings to the table is just such a lovely thing to witness. And I think she's, everyone go and check out her podcast episode, because it is just a beautiful reflection of who she is as a person. So funny, so witty, and she's lovely to work with.
Well, you're a fantastic team member, and you do build everybody up, as you've done already today for multiple people listening to this podcast. Let me just ask though, when you were finished, you thought, what am I going to do with these skills? And what was your intention? What was your plan?
Ultimately, I wanted to be able to go and help other people improve or take their message out into the world, essentially. I think that's the gift of being a writer. Obviously, we have AI on the horizon, and that's something that we have to draw in and use as a tool in writing, but not rely on it. But ultimately, I really wanted to help people get their message out into the world. And that's really the sole purpose of why I'm here at TechPixies, is to really help you and TechPixies get its message out into the world. So I wanted to be able to ensure that I understood how to use social media from a personal point of view, so that then I could advise my clients as a copywriter on messaging and really understand exactly how to get that message out in the best possible formats, whether it's short, snappy messages on X, it was Twitter at the time, on X now, or longer form stories in blog posts or on Instagram. And really, I think things are shifting in social media all the time. So you need to keep up to date and refresh those skills and ensure that you can keep up to date.
So right as you finished the course, we had done our first appeal to employ people to come in and help me at TechPixies, because at the time, the team, there was no team. it was me, and I had originally hired some lovely ladies part-time who were the very first few cohorts, like first 1 and 2 cohorts of TechPixies, and they actually came on and they managed social media. And I had someone named Emma Wu, who was our sort of like chief operating officer. She sort of did a lot of different things, managed the database, interviewed people. And then that became Juliet. When Emma moved on to become a counselor, we hired Juliet. And we got to a place where it was like, okay, it was me. I think it was me and Juliet. I think that was pretty much it by that time, because I'd had to sort of let everybody go because financially we weren't generating enough income. Then I raised money, and then because I'd raised money, I was able to start hiring again. And so we put out a call for people to apply to work for TechPixies. Lisa originally came in as the social media person, and that was the role she came in with. So Lisa came in to run social media, and she also is a designer, so could do all of the design work initially. And then Juliet came in and was doing all of the interviews. So you actually came in, you must have come in a little bit after them, when we'd worked out, we love Lisa, but Lisa's dyslexic. We'd worked out, Lisa was struggling with the copy side of the posting, and we needed someone who could do the copywriting. I think that I'm now remembering that that's sort of how it went down. And so then we were looking for someone who could do the show notes for the podcast. And that was, I think, the original thing we were looking to hire for, and write the emails, the weekly emails. Because up until then, I was doing all of the, Lisa and I both struggled with our ability to write sentences without mistakes. But every email that was going out, I know we sort of looked at each other and we're like, this is not working. But we loved working together. And I knew I wanted to keep Lisa on the team and move her over to the design side. But we needed someone to fill the gap where she was with. And she's watching live right now. She says, I was the digital marketing assistant. And then she was very, very happy to give up the copy. I was pleased to give up the copy. So yeah, then we interviewed you for the copy role. And there were actually, there were a lot of people in the community who applied for that job. And it was really hard to turn people down. My criteria in the end was, we gave you a task, didn't we? And the task was, it was Lachelle's interview as well, I think. So we had to take a podcast interview that I had recently done and that we hadn't produced copy for. And you needed to write the email to entice people to listen to the podcast, as well as all the social media copy. And no one knew this at the time, even myself. I knew that doing a task was important because I knew we had to see if people could do the actual task. But the thing I didn't realize was how I was going to base my decision. I didn't base my decision on CVs. I didn't base my decision on the interview. I based my decision solely on whose copy did I not have to edit before we hit send. And yours was the only copy that because at that point, the business was like, I was so busy all the time. And so and we were growing really fast, and we had this investment money that we had to sort of deliver on. And so I was like all firing on all cylinders. So your copy was the only copy that I felt like I could hit send on, and I wouldn't have to worry about what it said, because it was pretty much spot on.
Oh, well, Lachelle's episode was such a gift in general. It was one of those episodes where there were just perfect sound bites. And for a writer, you're always looking for the key pieces of information, but those sound bites that you can take and use and expand on. And Lachelle was talking about Jackie Channing her rants, her automatic negative thoughts. You were doing a birthday rap, which was just ultimately brilliant, and just so many gifts for a writer to be able to use. So being able to write about that episode as a sample episode was just lovely, and such a great introduction, I think, to what the podcast show notes have become ultimately, and just a really good reference point, I think, for anyone who wants to dive into the podcast, just have a quick read of the show notes and see what's going on, and hopefully entice them into the episode a little bit more.
Well, and what's super fun is that, and this is something that I didn't admit to you till like way later. I think it was about 6 months before I actually could stop and have the time to actually read your emails. So we did 6 months of podcasting where you were writing the show notes and just sending out the emails. And I wasn't even checking them because I didn't have the bandwidth to even check them, because there was so much that I was building and so much that I was trying to create and do and understand. And I was learning masses, because we weren't an online, I mean, we had just become an online company, but we really I didn't know how to scale an online business. I didn't know how to do any of those things. And I had to learn, like, literally, it's like pushing someone out of a plane and then saying, build your own parachute as you're going down the plane, falling down on on the earth. But I didn't look at any of the copy first. I just knew I needed someone who could get on with it and didn't need my oversight. And then eventually, I think it was about 6 months later, I was like, okay, now I've got time to read these. All right, here's a few changes that I would make. Because up until then, I had done all of the copywriting for TechPixies. Lisa had to go at it, and then you took over. And it was like, I just needed that break from the copywriting because I'd done it for so long. And Lisa needed the break from copywriting. And when after that 6 months, then I started looking at it. And then that's really started when we started almost working together rather than separately, because I think you were sort of just like, I couldn't keep up with what was going on. So you had to just get on with it. But then we started really working closely together, and we had someone who was doing the tech side of the business. And we went through a couple different tech people to try, and in the end, I went back to being the tech person because it was, I knew what I wanted and I knew how I wanted it done. But then eventually we got to a place where, and this is where I think you and I have gone through so much, because when you came into the business, we had funding and all the positions were funded and we could do all the things that we really wanted to do financially. And then during our time together, we've had waves where we've had to let people go and people have had to leave. And so there was an amazingly talented person doing a lot of our tech behind the scenes, and we just couldn't afford her as a company. And I say we, because Kathryn's very much now on the inside of the business, not just as a copywriter, but across the board as like daily cheerleader, but also, she's heavily involved in strategic decisions now. She's really the right-hand man or woman, I should say, right-hand woman. But we lost someone on our team who was hugely skilled on the tech side of things. And Kathryn, you just said, I'll do it. I'll add that to my skill set. If you show me how to do it, I'd really love to learn that skill. And that was where you became not only the copywriter, but you actually, and the podcast editor, but then you took on the funnel building and the sales emails and the sales sequences. And then you evolved into even taking over the support as well and running support for us and managing the video editor. I mean, I don't think that we would have got through some of the most tricky times that we have got through together if you weren't in the picture. I really needed you there for those times. But talk about how that your role has evolved, because you're way more involved on the strategic side now. You manage a lot of our team members. You and I have done some other projects together. So, talk about the evolution of your role and what that's meant for you.
I think I'm just so grateful to you for the opportunities ultimately, but I think because there's been such a transition and such a morphing of, these ebbs and flows that you go through as a company, and I think all companies go through this, I've always known that I am not ever going to be and never want to be the front person of a company. That's not my skill set. I'm very much enjoy and love being behind the scenes and being able to champion other people and sit and hopefully, offer support where I can. But I never want to be the front person of a business. So everything that I've dived into on the support side has been really interesting, and adding to my skill set as I go along has just been hugely exciting. I never thought that I would be building funnels, building out sales sequences in ActiveCampaign, and all these things I absolutely love. And I'm truly grateful to our previous person, because she really showed me exactly what was what on the funnel side. And I remember having lots of video chats really about kind of automations in ActiveCampaign and how you run a sales sequence through. And she was a guiding light for me. So I'm hugely grateful to her. And
and she's back at TechPixies now. So
yes.
Abby Moore was our sort of, she was the person that was doing all of the work that you're doing now. And then she got a really great job that paid a lot more than we could. And so we wished her well, but then we ended up bringing her back in, and she's now the head coach for our social media management certification. So she still is heavily involved in TechPixies, just in a different way. And that's allowed you to thrive and learn a whole new skill set that you wouldn't have had either. And so I think it's been really cool. I think it's definitely a job that started out as show notes and podcast editing and emails, and it's evolved to entire email sales sequences, to entire funnel build. You've built, you build and have built many of the funnels that we currently use, if not all of the ones that we currently use, and your skill set is just fantastic. So you've learned so much, and you've been able to apply that, and that's been a huge reason why we've been able to keep growing and keep going in many different ways. And I think again, it comes down to that idea that I don't think that, well, I know I could not have done your job, my job, Lisa's job, Colby's job. Like, I just can't do all the jobs. And I think it's an important message for people. A lot of the women we work with, you and I both work with them. You're connected to them through the podcast editing and the internship that we run on social media, and the other internships that we're now running in tech and support. But I think that recognizing when you get to a certain point in your revenue where hiring someone to help you has a bigger impact than trying to do all the things all the time, and recognizing that by hiring someone, you get time back. And if they're good at what they do, and if they love what they're doing, then it's a win-win all around. I think, you wanted to work from day one. You wanted to work 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. You wanted Fridays through Sunday off. Now, occasionally there are times where you worked on the weekends or you worked on a Friday, just due to the nature of the job that you're in, but you're pretty good with your schedule, and you can take the day off another day during the week and things like that. So, for you, what has that been like to be in a role where you can grow and you can learn and you can do different things? What has that been like for you?
I think it's like everything. I think the older you get, the more you wonder how much your skill set can change and morph. And I suppose you're always wondering, how much can I learn? How much more can I learn? How much more do I want to learn? And I think it's really interesting. I've had a really long career in journalism and copywriting, very much, I think, like Ella Hoyas. And now I'm building on, funnels and getting more involved in the tech side. And I would never have called myself a tech integrator, which I think is probably what I would add to my CV now if I was going to put my CV out there. But I would add tech integrator. I never would have thought 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that I would have been able to add something like that to my CV. I've always called myself a creative, but as a creative, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself and not dive into things that feel quite scientific or techie. I think it's utilizing slightly different sides of your brain. And it's been really interesting to dive into that and know that not only just to give it a go, obviously with guidance from those in TechPixies who've had the skills and have had the time and taken the time to show me what's what. That's the beauty of TechPixies. There is always someone to ask if you're stuck, and someone will show you exactly what you need to, whether it's Paula Tadzik or anyone in the community will be able to show you on the tech side. Nicola Walsh, she's excellent on the tech. I think having that full skill set now is just such a gift. And I would not have had that had I not come to TechPixies. Simple as that.
Well, we've got Casey Socials listening here and says, a woman of many skills and also great at them all. And it says, TechPixies has a way of bringing out sides of us we didn't even know were there. And that is so true. One of the things I love about our team is majority, not everybody, but the majority of people on our team actually went through the training, the training that we ran. So you were a TechPixies, Lisa was a TechPixie, and you both, and Anne Marie, who now runs our support, because there was a point where Kathryn and I were like, okay, we have been doing, Kathryn's job just kept getting added to, and then between the two of us, we were trying to manage support around our already very full schedules. And we both looked at each other and sort of said, we really need to hire someone in support. We've given, this thing that was only supposed to be a few months has gone on 18 months too long. And so we've been able to bring in a team member to help on the support side, which has been huge. But I think that for us and for the things that we've gone through, one of the things that helped, I think, is when I became a DreamBuilder coach, and I was wanting to bring in the DreamBuilder technology, the way of thinking, in addition to the neuro coaching that we do, but a new way of creating a vision and then exploring that vision, living that vision. So when I became a DreamBuilder coach, I said to the whole team, I said, anyone who'd worked for us in the past or anyone who was working for us presently, that I would sponsor a spot for them. It's 1,997 pound program. And I said, I'll sponsor everyone on the team. I will give you a place on DreamBuilder if you'd like to use it. And not everyone took us up on that opportunity, but you did, Lisa did. And a couple other people did take advantage of that. And part of the reason I wanted you guys as a team to go through DreamBuilder was so that you could see the methodology that I was using to build the business, and that you could understand that and become what we call a partner in believing, so that the whole team was built up of partners in believing. And I feel like that relationship, with you, with Lisa, because we've gone through DreamBuilder, and Anne Marie's done DreamBuilder as well. She had done it before she became a team member, but because we've gone through that, we were able to put our vision together for the business and take action on that vision and stay positive towards that vision and squash the negative ants, the automatic negative thoughts. We've been able to do that. What impact did DreamBuilder have on you? Because not only have you done the social media management certification program, but you did the DreamBuilder program. And I'm curious for you, where did that land for you?
Well, I always say, and if anyone's been in support and asking about DreamBuilder, I always tell them that DreamBuilder is my favorite program that we run here at TechPixies, just because it had such a profound effect on me personally. I think it's one of those, I like to call it a kind of stealth program almost. You don't really appreciate the changes that you're undergoing until you take some time away from that program and look at exactly what you've achieved because of it. So for me, I focused on my quadrant. There are 4 quadrants in DreamBuilder: love and relationships, career and vocation, time and money freedom, and
health and well-being.
Thank you. So I focused on love and relationships for obvious reasons, because I was going through a separation at the time, now going through a divorce, and wanted to really knuckle down into what love and relationships meant and what I wanted to achieve ultimately, which is hopefully another relationship. But it gave me a really deep understanding of myself. That sounds entirely corny, but I needed to go through that process of forgiveness of another person, forgiveness of myself, and the role that I played in the relationship, and understand, although somebody was divorcing me, I think you've got to appreciate the role that you've played in that relationship and why your marriage ultimately has broken down. And DreamBuilder gave me that perspective and that deep understanding of really being able to accept the situation, for one, forgive myself 2, forgive someone else 3. But that was not an easy process. And everyone who goes through DreamBuilder who has that kind of similar situation, I guess, always says that those forgiveness weeks, weeks 6 and 7, are really, really tough weeks. And you can't just do those 2 weeks once, I don't think. It's something you have to keep revisiting. And it's something that I revisit now still, I think. But I'm in such a warm place and a really kind of nice place because of it, I think. I don't want to speak, of my ex-husband and his decisions, but I think because of DreamBuilder, I can take that perspective now, and I see that what he did was actually pretty brave. He decided that he wanted something different from life and went for it. That was his dream. So just being able to kind of understand that and accept that, I think is a big for me.
Yeah,
So personally, it's had a huge, huge, huge impact. And I wish everyone could experience DreamBuilder. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal program.
I'm with you on that. I do wish everyone could experience DreamBuilder. It is life-changing. It is life-giving. Kelly's listening, and she's written DreamBuilder is 100% life-changing, and I would totally say that is 100% true. I just did a podcast interview for another podcast, the Money Matters podcast by AJ Bell, and I was just talking about. They were saying, how did you get through some of the most challenging times? And I said, well, that's funny that you should ask, because when I was struggling the most is when I found this vision workshop that changed my life, changed my perspective, helped me see things differently. And I was like, that was so powerful. I've got to bring that to the community, because we didn't have anything that was connected to the vision. Everything we were doing was connected to squashing the ants and rewriting the narrative, but it was rewriting the backward narrative rather than also creating the future narrative. And one of the things that I really love from the DreamBuilder program is this or something greater still. And it's that kind of this idea that if a marriage doesn't work out, if a job doesn't work out, if something doesn't work out the way that you thought it was, taking the default position that it's this or something greater still, meaning if this didn't work out, there's a greater thing out there for me. Right. And, whatever that is, it could be another person that you want to spend your life with. It could be, if the house you're in doesn't work out and you're manifesting an even better one. It could be, it could be that if the job doesn't work out, that wasn't the right job for you. And actually there's a better one out there for you. And I said on this podcast that I was doing, I said, and you've survived many of the layoffs we've had to do. But the one thing that I have said is the people who've left TechPixies, either of their own accord or because we couldn't keep them on staff, they've usually gone on to do something even greater still. They've gone on to find something that was even better of a fit for them. And so I just think that this or something greater still is so powerful for anything that doesn't work out in your life. This belief that, oh, well, it didn't work out because there's something greater to come. And there's so much peace of mind in that.
Yeah, I think so. Also, I think a really good friend said to me that we have people who come into our life and they're almost like seasons. They arrive and they perhaps might depart. And that is a season of your life. And I think certainly TechPixies has arrived at a very particular point in my life, at the exact point actually that I really needed TechPixies. And I think a lot of TechPixies will say the same thing. To a certain degree, TechPixies finds us when we need it. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing, really, that I'm able to do the job that I do and work with the women that I do, and particularly you and Lisa, but on a wider context, the TechPixies who are in a community, they're all such brilliant women. And I feel so, so blessed to be in such a community of women who are ultimately going out, achieving what they want to achieve, some in exceptionally difficult circumstances, but they're all going towards a bigger dream for themselves, all wanting to get out there and fight for financial independence for themselves and really going for it. And I love that about this community. It's for women, by women, and it's a beautiful, beautiful community.
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like we just need to stop there. That was so good. We've got people watching live on Instagram as well. So I just want to shout them out. Lots of beautiful souls in our community. We've got a lot of people watching live from our community, which I absolutely love. So Carolyn says, DreamBuilder is amazing and truly changing. Forgiveness is the challenge, but so worth it. And then she says, you're awesome sauce, Kathryn. And then Esme also has joined us online. And she says, DreamBuilder made me focus on a vision and gave me a purpose move forward. And I think that is so true. Aileen as well says, TechPixies found me at exactly the right place too. Thank goodness. I'm so touched by your willingness to be so open, Kathryn. And I think this was, it was funny because we were like, oh, who should be on the podcast next? If anyone's thinking we have this grand podcast plan, we're not as organized as we'd like to be yet in the strategic plan of the podcast, but we do love to tell the stories of women in our community. And so while we were having our weekly marketing meeting, Lisa was on the call and our interns were on the call, or our social media intern was on the call, and our community manager and statistician, they were on the call. We were all on a call together, and we were saying, okay, well, who should we interview next on the podcast? And Lisa said, I think it's got to be Kathryn. I want to hear Kathryn on the podcast. And I'm so glad you said yes to this, because it's been really a pleasure and an honor to talk to you, but also just to pause for a minute and to recognize what we've gone through together to get the business to this point. I mean, I have very vivid memories of when there was a point at which I thought I was like not even going to be able to keep Kathryn on staff. And that was pretty awful. And I remember calling you and just crying my eyes out and just saying, like, and I know I did it with Lisa too, but I just remember I was crying and I was just like, I don't even know why you're still around. This ship is sinking. You don't want to be on this ship. And you're like, no, I do want to be on this ship. I'm going to, and we're going to turn it around together. And I just remember, like, it was a real point of weakness for me. And I think if I had had a boss that did, and I'm not really a boss, but if I was working for someone and they had a phone call with me, I would be panicking. I would be like, what? I'm going to lose my job. Like, but you were just so great because you just said, no, we're going to figure it out. It's all going to work out. We're going to get to the other side of this. Like, it's going to be fine. We're going to do this, whatever we need to do. And yeah, I mean, I have vivid memories of like falling apart on a Zoom call with you and just like,
it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to see you like that, because you are such a strong woman. But ultimately, I have this, and I really truly believe in gut instinct. I think it is something that we should all intuitively listen to and really at points be guided by it if it's strong enough. But I had this overwhelming gut instinct that everything would work out. And it's not just that everything is figure outable, as Marie Forleo says. It was something deeper than that. It was just this unwavering belief that what you have set up and what you have created is bigger really than any of us. And because you're doing such amazing work with so many amazing women, I just knew that there was a way that we could turn it around. And we have such an overwhelming amount of support behind you. So
we did. We launched 29 times in a row. In a 12-month period, we launched 29 times. I think I launched like almost, it felt like it was like every other week. But we did turn it around, and we did keep the doors open, and we did keep, all of our promises to our clients and students who'd signed up and registered for us. And, and it's so funny. You get through a year like that and you think, oh, we're never going to have to deal with a tough time again. And then you have new challenges. But it's great to know that I've got someone on the bus with me that, is driving that bus, no matter what happens, what comes our way. And that was the funny thing when I was interviewing Lisa. I remember the gal that was on our board that was helping do the interviews. She said, look, when you're hiring someone, you want to make sure that there's someone like you could be stuck on a bus with, or stuck in the airport with, or, if you were in the worst scenario, you would want them on the bus. And, that was actually, that was a great tip to think about when we were hiring people, is like, would I want to be stuck on a bus with this person? And we have been stuck on a bus together, not in real life, but metaphorically speaking. And we've had some great times, and, and we continue to have some great times. And I'm very, truly grateful to you. And, and again, I know Lisa's getting a lot of shout outs here, but like the three of us sort of have been, stayed the course in terms of the team throughout the ups and downs of the last few years. And we have obviously new team members, Anne Marie and Colby as well, who are just, amazing and important to the functioning of this team, and our social media team and our social media interns. And so it's not just us anymore, but I have to say, I think it's really important to shed some light on the person. I know you don't like to be the front person, but I wanted to make sure that people in the community knew a little bit more about you. They knew a little bit more about your story and why you're so passionate about what you do. You are such a light in the TechPixie world, and you do it very much behind the scenes without complaining. And I'm very grateful to that. Laura Doherty's on here too. She says, I'm so proud of you, Joy and Kathryn. And I love that. And also Dawn says, so lovely, not to mention inspiring to hear you and Kathryn sharing together. So anything we want to, any final words of wisdom you want to, because we can't really tell people to go follow you on social media because
no, don't go and follow me on social media. No, don't do that. But I just want to say thank you to all the TechPixies out there. I mean, I've been in support and listening to your stories, and those who've come onto the podcast, thank you. From my point of view, I've had the privilege of listening from, I think, about episode 50, and we're now about to hit episode 250. So I'm very, very blessed to have been listening to all of your stories. So thank you so much. And Joy, thank you for the gift that you've given us all with TechPixies and this amazing community. It's a privilege to be part of it. So thank you.
Oh, well, it's a privilege and an honor to have such an amazing group of women that we serve. First and foremost, we wouldn't be here without each one of you who are listening to this podcast, who are also showing up for training from us and applying the training and getting the results for us to share on the podcast. So huge thank you to the community. And then, of course, thank you to our amazing team. And I say our team because Kathryn and I think we managed the team together. And so we're both very grateful to everyone on the team and all the hard work that they do. Because, sometimes we ask a lot of our team, but we do it hopefully with grace and a smile and understanding. Oh, wait, I think we do have to, just for fun, we just have to talk about some bloopers, because I think people need to know that we're human and we make mistakes. And so do you want to talk about the Dear Kathryn email? Because I think this is a fun one.
My gosh. Oh, so if anyone knows anything about automated emails, you have in your first sentence, you have a dear, and then it will be some sort of function in your automated system. In ours, it is % first name %. And I had duplicated an email that just had forgotten to include the dear % first name % and included Dear Kathryn instead. So this email went out to literally our entire email list saying, Dear Kathryn. Oh my gosh, it was the funniest thing, but the most mortifying thing in the world. Everyone getting these emails going, Dear Kathryn, Dear Kathryn. But
then we got all sorts of emails back, my name's not Kathryn.
But some brilliant responses in support. I remember one of the TechPixies wrote to me and said, oh, clearly you need more chocolate that day. You've been off your chocolate. Go and have some more. I was just like, oh gosh, I have had some faux pas in my time, but it just shows.
Then you sent out, what was brilliant was then the response you sent out afterwards was hilarious. And so I think, I think that was one of the biggest ones, but it's one of my favorite ones. It makes me laugh every time I think about it. Dear Kathryn. And then just what cracked me up was all the people who wrote in to support saying, I'm not Kathryn.
To be fair, they're probably like, who's Kathryn? Who's Kathryn?
Who's Kathryn? I'm not Kathryn. Well, this is Kathryn. This is her. You've just met her.
Yeah, sorry if you've ever received an email from me saying, Dear Kathryn. I am responsible for that.
Yeah, no. And then we've sometimes sent emails to the wrong segment or.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. You've got to just be really on it in the back end. And there are occasions, I confess, and then I just miss things. And yeah, the segmentation, that can sometimes go awry, sometimes does. And if you've received an email that you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, again, I apologize. That's also me.
I know. But I think that just shows that and we do it on the social media team as well. And anytime something happens that is not preferable, we go, okay, like it happened, and then like, let's respond to it, and then, let's carry on. I mean, the number of emails that Kathryn has written, I mean, it's got to be in the thousands by now, the number of emails you've written, I would think, because whenever I go through, I mean, I think on a weekly basis where I would say you've probably written 5 or 6 or 7,000 emails, something like that. When you take into all the sequences and all the different things, I can only think of less than a handful of times where it went wrong. But what we did was we laughed it off, right? And we just carried on. So anyway, I thought that would be fun just to talk about a few of our life's bloopers that we've done, but that have been, great learning experiences, bonding experiences. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today. Susan Harris is listening. She says, I'm glad we now know who Kathryn is, the lady behind the support we receive. And it's not just the support. It's way beyond that. All of the emails, all of the funnels, everything, all the social media copy, that is definitely not me. It's all Kathryn. And I'm grateful that she's figured out how to channel the TechPixies voice into such lovely copy. So thank you for taking off your visibility cloak, sharing your story. And it just goes to show that, and I think this is very important for people to hear. If you learn social media skills, you have no idea where they're going to go, right? I mean, Kathryn had copywriting skills. She combined the social media skills. Then she applied it to podcasting. She applied it to funnels. She's applied it to, everything we do. And now she's pretty much running the majority of the behind the scenes for our business, which is incredibly interesting and a phenomenal achievement and accomplishment that started with, okay, I've been made redundant. I'm going to upskill in this thing. And then I have no idea where it's going to go. So really appreciate you putting your hand up for that job, because you've done a great job for us.
Oh, well, thanks, Joy. It's been lovely, lovely. And I love my job, so I'm very honored to do it.
All right. Well, I am so glad that we got you on the podcast, and I will talk to you in about 5 minutes. And for the rest of you who are listening, thank you so much for listening to us. We're so grateful that you're here today. And of course, if this podcast has inspired you, please let us know in support by emailing us, support@techpixies.com. And if you have ideas for the direction of the podcast, or some people that you would like to listen to or hear from, please let us know as well. We're always looking for great ideas for the podcast. And of course, if you're an alumni and you're out there crushing it like Kathryn is, and some of our other alumni, many of our other alumni, we'd love to interview you on the podcast. So if you're listening to this and you're loving this and you're thinking, well, I haven't been on the podcast yet, I haven't been invited, why not put yourself forward? Because we're always looking to showcase our amazing community. Thanks, and bye for now.